good morning to you. It's Wednesday, and I can't remember the date. 18th, I should remember right now, of December. Countdown to when, Kennedy? He will give us the countdown time. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Welcome to the program.
It's a beautiful Wednesday morning.
I caught off guard. I like it.
Not necessarily, Jeffrey. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, I know everyone is counting down, one way or the other. You're counting down to something. So 7 days to Christmas officially. Welcome to your perfect day starter. I can smell Christmas.
Literally.
Yeah, I'm Kayode Okikulu, and what a morning it's
What a morning it's been, guys.
Well, I smell traffic on my way down here with
literally
commuters beginning to drive against traffic from the inward Ogun State end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and they began diverting from inward Lagos to outward Lagos, and we see the cause of the traffic there. So this is a very good traffic advisory for those who are yet to set out, particularly from the Lagos end. And if Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is your route this morning. So be advised about the situation of things. We see the 40-foot container there falling over, and that looks very much like the Kara end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Indeed, it is the Kara end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And somebody has quite an experience this morning, and that's why they're upbeat.
Well, I'm an eyewitness to some of these things that happen. It's a crazy situation on Kara Bridge. Right now, if you're going out of Lagos on Kara Bridge, there's a division. One side, there's traffic all the way to God knows where. But towards Opik Estate is free, as you can see. And some of us had to fly bikes to get to the office right now. It's not a funny experience, but it is a way you can divert or follow the traffic advisory in case they are telling you to follow another lane or one way, whatever. Just do your best. But if you're coming into Lagos, it's not really that much of a problem. But if you're going out of Lagos, to be very honest, I got a call at about 5 a.m., but I wasn't even looking at my phone. I woke up and I saw the call, and I was like, oh, I got to set out, but I still got caught up in traffic, so I had to fly the bike to get to the office. So if that's an alternative for you, fantastic. If it isn't, if there's something you can just delay so that this blows over, I think you should do that as quickly as possible.
This might be a good time to explore the work from home options. But
that's if it's available,
right? But I think a lot of organizations already have that option. Some work from home for maybe 3 days out of 2. In fact, some do 3 from home, 1 from the office, and 1 you don't come to work at all. You go to the farm. But this is the point I was going to make, guys. Just this week alone, I have seen this will be the 3rd or 4th accident I'll be seeing. Articulated vehicles turned over or accident involving them. I was almost in one. I think I told you guys when one of the traffic officials was trying to stop a vehicle, one of the trucks, and the guy wasn't going to stop, so he was about to hit the vehicle, my vehicle. Thank God the driver swerved. I don't know. I don't want to sound like every other person says, let's declare a state of emergency. But having 4 of this in just a week on the same route.
During the Yuletide.
On the same route, guys. Something is clearly wrong. Is it the drivers? Is it their vehicles, the articulated vehicles themselves?
Because the road is good.
Well,
I don't get it, really.
I had a little wonder that more often than not, these accidents are caused by articulated vehicles. So that is where there is definitely an obvious gap in regulation. The road safety agencies and the sister agencies of traffic management do not have the wherewithal, the capacity required, to enforce compliance of regulations, for the use of this road by articulated vehicles. What is happening to cargo transport for, rails, such that we'll have less and less of these articulated vehicles on the road. It's not just about articulated vehicles. We see also that motorcycles are increasingly becoming daring and the norm on the expressway. And it's not just Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. There's also the concern for Lagos-Badagry Expressway. Even motorcycles, they drive against traffic, ride now against traffic on the expressway at different portions, and in fact at critical conflict points where commuters are making turns. You see a motorcycle, riding just against you, just coming towards you.
Am I the one who's wrong here or the motorcycle? motorcycle,
This
or a vehicle.
Yes,
Yeah,
A lot of
right?
and they'll be screaming at you at some point.
Like,
yeah.
can you go? Let me
Can
do
you
my
go?
thing.
Let me pass.
I don't know if trucks go through the roadworthiness thing, but this is a time to enforce it. Because I can tell you, if you do a count, you find at least 2 out of 10 that are not worthy. They don't have
That's even
proper
being
headlamps.
conservative.
I'm being kind, right?
7.
They don't have headlamps. They don't have reflectors. Some of them. You should see the exhaust that comes out the smoke that comes out of the exhaust. It literally reduces visibility. I remember driving just recently on the highway, and I could not see. I'm talking about almost like 300 meters ahead of me.
This is what I found out.
Because a truck's exhaust was messing up with visibility.
And if that was the problem, it would have still been big. But added to that, what do they call it now? The containers are not well keyed into the flatbed. That's why they fall
another
over
story.
more often than not.
I used to make it. There's a name I call them. I don't want to call it on TV. However, again, enforcement is critical. We've said this over and over again. Enforcement is critical. I see and I think, from what I perceive, from what I'm seeing on screen and what I saw come into the office, I think that whatever that vehicle carried fell off and literally rolled over. So you can see the traffic officials. This is
steel sheet.
Still. It fell. So this is even more dangerous because it was. I'm sure it's rolling because it's like a cycle. It keeps rolling over and over a circle. It keeps, look at them. Look at them. So
each of those
because
cylindrical.
As I was coming, I saw that they've started moving them onto another articulated
weighing
vehicle.
Tons. Come on, that's a lot.
This is absolutely dangerous. What I wanted to say was sometimes driving in Lagos, you feel that the law is for the middle class. Because it feels like the middle class has a lot of civility and all of that, but they have not. They break the law. What do you call that vehicle? The yellow buses, the Keke Marwa. Those ones, they are standard lawless. The laws are not made. The laws are not made for those ones. They are standard lawless.
And you find them.
Then the middle
the
class.
expressway.
If they drive past, the traffic officials will act like they have selective blindness, and then you do the same thing. They catch you. A big man drives past, he has escort. So
I just want to say that
we have to be fair to everybody.
We shouldn't wait for Kemi Badenoch to talk about this again.
Why did you bring Kemi this matter?
Thank you for rubbing it in. We can put Kemi Badenoch's matter in proper context. But it may be a good time to remind Nigerians that there is that road safety app that you can download and deploy to reporting articulated vehicles that go against regulations when they're on the road. But I wonder, how commuters will be able to deploy that app, by parking, first of all, trying to take shots and report that. So we must all be responsible and help ourselves. If you're a commuter who just happens to be on site when these articulated vehicles, are driving through and they're evidently, going against regulations, you can do a community service by recording such and uploading on that app such that the report can go through. And if this app is available and indeed Nigerians have begun to use it, then we should experience a reduction of this with the road safety, deploying their men to, ensuring that, these articulated vehicles are made to face the full weight of the law.
All right, let's leave the roads and head to what we're doing for you today. The budget should be presented today, hopefully by noon, by the president or sometime around, today. 47 trillion naira is actually the budget that the president will be presenting, but there's a deficit of about 13 trillion naira, and the federal government has said that will be funded through borrowing. We will be looking at it with some of these experts you've seen on your screen. They will have to break it down for us as the president prepares his books to make a case why he has to be the budget has to be approved, considered and approved by the National Assembly.
And that's not all. We are in what you call the cold, dry season, and pretty much it's ever present at this point in time. What are the effects of the Harmattan on our health? We have a medical practitioner coming in who will be giving us tips to successfully navigate the season.
Absolutely, so you can maintain your glow, just as you see on the screen there. But hey, it's, well, an indication that we're almost at Christmas, a time for merriment. So we'll be taking a look at how to plan a Christmas menu that your family and friends will never forget.
Well, there's a lot that has to do with Christmas and preparations for Christmas as far as the show is concerned today. And now we're counting down. Innovation in food delivery. In this fast-paced era, people need food delivered to them efficiently and quickly. And there's a lot that has to do with this space in terms of delivery services. I know you've had experiences, but let's see whether there are good ones out there that you can use. Everybody's laughing because we have a fair share of what this is.
And this is handy at this point in time for
Better
some
not
who
eat
do
your
not
food
like,
in transit.
who do not like
When
to
there's traffic, it's spark.
And for those who do not like to do cooking during Christmas, they just want to order. But that's not all we have for you. There's a bonus. We will be chatting with singer, songwriter, and Annette Aigbugu. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's a full package. You can be a part of the show. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief right away, or just go over to WhatsApp. If you're in that traffic, let us know how it's going. If you're in traffic in another part of the country, I know we were talking about Lagos traffic. Yes, Lagos traffic might take the first position, but the other parts of the country where you see traffic as well.
Port Harcourt has
exactly.
Yes.
So share your morning
Abuja
experience with us.
traffic.
Well,
They left the WhatsApp group.
so let us know what it is like where you're at right now. The morning brief is on, and we're back with the top stories. Stay with us.
Top on the brief this morning, Ghana's president-elect John Mahama has visited President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja. This was disclosed by the special assistant to the president on social media, Olusegun Dada. Mahama's visit comes weeks after he won Ghana's presidential election, earning him a return to the seat of power 8 years after leading the West African nation.
And from the villa, we move to the South-South, where the Edo State House of Assembly has passed a resolution suspending all chairmen and vice chairmen of the 18 local government councils of the state for 2 months. The House also mandated leaders of the legislative arms to take over leadership of their respective councils. The governor of the state, Monday Ukpevolo, had written a petition to the House over the refusal of the chairmen to submit financial records to their local governments to the state government.
That is why the debate is on local government autonomy. Yes,
Why
indeed.
are we not surprised? Jeffrey, that's
This is an interesting development in Edo State. Okay, let's bring you other stories. The economies of West African state has intensified its effort on practical arrangement for the launch of the single currency for the region, following a consensus reached in the implementation of the directives issued at the 65th ordinary session. The ECOWAS bloc of 15 countries had previously planned to launch the currency in 2020, but the coronavirus pandemic caused the delays. The new launch year is now 2027, and that's our own election year.
Indeed. And let's go outside our shores now. The Democratic Republic of Congo has filed a criminal case against European subsidiaries of tech giant Apple, accusing them of illegally using blood minerals in its supply chain. The Republic alleges that Apple has bought contraband supplies from the country's conflict-wracked East and Rwanda zones, in which the materials are alleged to be mined illegally and then integrated into global supply chains before ending up in tech devices.
That's why they refer to it as blood minerals. Let's talk about sports. Real Madrid attacker Vinicius Jr. has won the FIFA Best Men's Player of the Year award, while a Barcelona midfielder Aitana Bonmati picked up the women's prize for the second time. Vinicius succeeds Lionel Messi as the FIFA Best Men's Player after the Argentinian scooped up the last 2 editions of the award. The forward scored 24 goals and racked up 11 assists in 39 matches across all competitions last season as he led Real Madrid to a La Liga and Champions League double.
And in entertainment, Nigerian Afrobeat maverick Burna Boy has announced that his 8th studio album, No Sign of Weakness, will be released next year. No Sign of Weakness will arrive 2 years after his last studio album, I Told Them. And speaking of Burna Boy, he was also trending just in the last 24 hours for being romantically linked to a beautiful American singer. Of course, perhaps we'll have that confirmed in the coming days.
Well, Burna Boy is always keeping his love life on the wraps until we get to find out. So whatever it is, good for him. He's a young man. He has time. How young is he now? I can't remember. But I think he's in his 30s. So it should start wrapping up as soon as possible. But hey,
I'm
let's
sure
bring
he hears you.
Let's bring you up to speed with what you have been saying beside what we're telling you. And we go to our social media of choice, which is X. But don't forget, if you're in that traffic outbound Lagos, please, our WhatsApp number is open. Send the video and or pictures, send it to us. We'll amplify it so that others who are trying to fly that road will make a turn, maybe for a better time or look for another alternative route to get to where they are going to. But let's get to this single currency to be launched by ECOWAS. This has been in the works for a long time. Africa in itself has been trying to do this. We have Euro for the European bloc. Africa has not been able, for whatever reason. I don't know, when it comes to things that unify us like this, there's always one challenge or the other. And it's going to be very good for the continent at the end of the day, because I don't know why we're doing business with Ghana, we're doing it with dollars. We're doing business with Niger, we're doing it in dollars. So all of this...
Or you could even talk about travel within the, you know,
you need visa to travel within Africa. And it's easier for some people in Europe to travel in Africa than you, as an African, to travel within Africa.
And it speaks to a lot, you know, to business, doing business within the continent as well.
Doesn't make sense. Okay, this is what your response is. Adiolu says... nothing should be like ECOWAS single currency. It should be Africa single currency. I kind of agree.
Absolutely.
I kind of agree.
But let's even start with the, you know, ECOWAS single currency in the first place. The fact that it's been in the works for so many years and it's still, you know, being a dream, you know, speaks to how even an African single currency will go through if that were to be considered.
Let's just adopt the model and change it to something else.
Let's see what If Consult is saying. Would that help the Naira? I doubt it. They should first open borders before talking about currency. An interesting point there also, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. Break down those barriers, okay? If Consult, I guess that's what your name is.
No, X-Chuku is what you're taking next.
Okay, X-Chuku, apologies. Modern rails transportation connecting all ECOWAS nations will significantly boost trade and development. Eco currency is acceptable.
And Mopito says, just adopt Naira as the ECOWAS currency. No need to invent a new one. After all, 3 countries in the ECOWAS bloc already use it as a legal form of exchange. Well, is that true? Is Naira accepted in all of the other West African countries?
Well, I don't know about that yet. You just exchange and exchange. Like talking about Nigerian Senate moving to ban use of dollar and other foreign currencies for transactions. This has been on and on and on and on. We keep hearing this over and over again. When is it going to be really implemented, and what are the modalities, and what are the reasons people even give to use foreign currency within our country to do business? It's really funny. Okay, let's find out what you were saying. At the patience, you say would be a nice thing to do actually. As small as Cotonou is, once you get to their border, you convert all your Naira to CFA. You can't trade with any other currency except CFA. Here in Nigeria, there are places they don't accept Naira. You must pay in dollars.
And the light says...
That's shameful.
Yeah. The light says, policies like this often sound good in theory, but can get tricky in execution. What do you think, bold economic strategy or potential roadblock? Well, that's not quite clear, but Jeffrey, you have the next one.
All right, Stephen says, the legislation is long overdue. No sane nation allows the dollarization of their economy, a situation where you lose economic autonomy. Imagine UK, US, other larger economies allow such in their country. Impossible. I'm glad the Nigerian Senate is making this move. All right.
Perhaps the Nigerian Senate and the other, blocks of the elite class should hold a mirror to themselves, because these, hard currencies are spent in those spaces in very expensive schools. Some expensive schools in Nigeria today, dollar is the currency accepted for payment of school fees and all other transactions.
I'm happy you raised that point. When it comes to this issue of dollar and all of that, politicians, let me say some politicians, because not all of them. I almost said most, but I don't have the fact. But a lot of politicians are responsible for our dollar rise. As we have noticed that as soon as fact is shared, like the record fact that we had, just 1.7 trillion, as soon as fact is shared,
then the currency takes a nosedive.
It goes up immediately. That means state governments are converting these monies to dollar for whatever reason. Come on. So when we say these things, point to ourselves as well. We are responsible for our own problem, and together we have to solve it.
And we
beginning
encourage
with our
those
political
negative
class.
Commentaries coming in from outside
Beginning with our political class.
Hey, we must do right by ourselves.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, the budget will be presented by the president hopefully today. 13 trillion is the deficit. It will be funded by borrowing, according to the finance minister and the budget office. That's the conversation we'll be having next. Join us again. Welcome back. We're still on the conversation around Nigeria's economy, and of course, in just hours from now, the president should be presenting the 2025 appropriation bill before a joint session of the National Assembly for their speedy consideration and passage for the next fiscal year. We've seen highlights of that budget, which includes 47-point-something trillion or 47.9 trillion naira as a size, or what we call the spending limit of this government coming in the next year, 2025. But there is a deficit because they expect to raise in terms of revenue about 34 trillion naira. So there's a gap of about 13 trillion. And the federal government has said, let's tell you ahead of time before you start screaming. We will fund it by borrowing. And that has got a lot of people talking. Our debt size is already up by, I think, over 100 trillion, about 140 trillion. And we're going to accumulate this and add even more eventually. So that is the crux of the conversation. We're being joined on the program by three gentlemen: a professor of economics, University of Benin, former president, Nigerian Economic Society, and former director general, National Center for Economic Management and Administration, Professor Mike Obadon. We also have the vice chairman, CITN Taxation Standards and Practice Monitoring Committee of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Mr. Aziz Alatoye. We also have joining us lead director, Center for Social Justice, Eze Onyekwere. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Prof, let's begin with you. And sometimes the way we like to look at it, maybe at some point our producers will put out the details for us. When they go to the National Assembly, I mean the president goes to the National Assembly, he makes a case for why the budget should be considered and passed. And one of the cases he makes is to highlight the performance of the year that is about to end also as a build-up to why he needs money to execute the next fiscal year. But when you look at what has been proposed by the federal government and this shortfall that will be funded through borrowing, what comes to mind, Prof?
Well, thank you very much. What easily comes to mind is that the federal government has continued to maintain an expansionary fiscal policy stance by which the public expenditure, as reflected in the annual budget, has continued to loosen against the backdrop of limited resources to fund the size of the expenditure. And invariably, with limited revenue and increasing public spending as reflected in the annual budget, then invariably a deficit necessarily occurs. So what easily comes to my mind is that the government does not seem to appreciate the need to have, a fairly reasonable budget size that is not overly expansionary, in which event it tends to complicate other macroeconomic indicators, like inflation, the fiscal deficit, which you are referred to, and then, of course, compounds the inability of the monetary authority to effectively control inflation. And so if the expansionary stance continues, then the goal of stabilizing the economy and then making the citizens much better and happier may be, far-fetched.
Okay, let's take it to Mr. Onyekure. I know that you also have your view on this particular budget size that is being presented by the government. People are saying this is record high in terms of naira terms, but in terms of dollar terms, is not record high because of the devaluation of the naira. And now we're going to go borrowing. And I also want you to speak to the issue of fiscal discipline and in management of the other budgets we've had as a piggyback on that to this shortfall that we'll be experiencing and how it will be funded.
Well, let me start by saying that the 47 trillion, if you convert it in dollar terms, is not a very big budget, particularly when we compare it to the budgets of comparator countries like South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, and other countries that are doing well in Africa. But the challenge is not about borrowing. It is what you do with that money you borrowed. Every other country in the world borrows money. And over the years, we've been told that borrowing should be invested in critical infrastructure to help grow the economy, create jobs, so that at the point we are supposed to repay, we will have something from which we will repay. But unfortunately, over the years, what has increased is the size of governments. So most of the borrowing that we've seen over the years has been channeled towards consumption and recurrent expenditure. So the more we borrow, the more our economy, shrinks, and the less we're in a position to pay back, to create jobs, and to grow our economy. So the challenge for me is that there is a contradiction in terms. The Tinubu administration has freed up over 7 trillion from debt subsidy, fuel subsidy. And one of the things we were told when this money was being freed is that we are going to create space for more investments in capital expenditure to grow the economy. We more or less increase revenue generated from non-oil sources since the administration came on board. Now, if you even look at the 2024 capital budget, it has hardly been implemented. There's not even a single budget implementation report. And recently we heard that they're going to roll over most of the 2024 capital projects into 2025. So we also had a huge deficit in 2024. So telling me about incurring more deficits in 2025, I am not convinced that the money is being properly managed. So they should be able to give us an account of the savings from fuel subsidy where it has been channeled and the new resources they've made by increasing, non-oil revenue. If you even look at the tax bills that they're proposing, they are increasing the VAT rate and a lot of new revenue is going to come in. So this rush to incur more deficits is surprising considering our debt size of over 134 trillion. In dollar terms, it's in excess of $91 billion. And this excludes the ways and means which they have made into bonds and which they have securitized, and they've not included it in this amount. And we are currently using about 70% of all our revenue as at 2023 to service debts. So in such a scenario, we are like somebody in a pit, and we are shouting we want to come out, and we are further digging and digging. That means we are not ready. And as Prof has said, look at the macroeconomic fundamentals, look at inflation rate, look at the level of unemployment, look at the GDP growth. How do you justify this level of deficit with all these fundamentals? And what this deficit can do is to worsen them rather than to help us to come out of the pit. So for me, is a no to a 13 trillion. We can find other ways to save money to fund most of the deficit, cut down the cost of governance, increase our oil revenue, stop the massive oil theft going on in the Niger Delta, and we will have more money to fund instead of borrowing because we are not investing properly.
So let me take this to Mr. Aziz. I imagine that you would have some responses to the submissions by, Professor Bado and Mr. Onyekure. But specifically, what do the optics look like, for the administration if, 13 trillion naira budget deficit to be funded by borrowing is unsustainable? What do the optics look like, and what are the implications for an already burgeoning debt because of the challenge of the exchange rate at nearly 140 trillion naira?
Okay, thanks very much for having me. Let me first fully, align with what Prof said, and also my colleague here. The first thing I think we also need to look at is, should we be preparing as a country? Of course, we know there are three categories of budget we will look at. Is whether you have, a surplus budget, a balanced budget, or a deficit budget. Each of these three budgets, have their own implication. Now, we've chosen, I think, the one I would say is most challenging of those budgets. We don't have a surplus budget to the extent that our revenue will be able to cover our costs, and we didn't cut our coat according to our cloth. We are not having a balanced budget to the extent that we spend the 34 trillion that we are having, we live within that. So if we can live within 27 trillion, in the past year, so increasing it to 34 trillion, will that not have been a reasonable thing to look at? Like a balanced budget. And the question is, even if we want to have 47, trillion, budget, why don't we look at some areas of PPP there, where we have some external, people funding some projects for which they are going to be recovering without necessarily we going into, deficit. So these are things that we need to look into. Some of these infrastructures, can we concession them to those private sectors who have those things as their business? So let them go and look for funds, and then they will be the one, battling with the issue of debt servicing. So, and that's why quite a lot of people are saying this is not sustainable, looking at the level of, our revenue. One of the major challenges we will be having is, using tax as much as possible also to fill in the gap. Because we know once we have a deficit, you have to be looking for a way of covering those deficits. And significantly, tax is going to be one. We are aware of the 4 tax bills that Mr. President had, submitted to the National Assembly. Yes, why the number of taxes are going to reduce from 62 or 64 taxes, as the case may be, to under 10, of those taxes. The point is whether the tax revenue is going to be reducing, and the answer is no. More taxes are going to be more, from the society, and you know what that means. The economic power of individual definitely is going to get reduced, a bit to that extent, and then it's going to fund the government project. So if we are looking at balancing this, I think it probably will be the right way to go. However, that is, using internal resources to fund projects, and it shouldn't really stifle, the economy. So the area we will focus are those who are not paying. Let's get them to be paying, and then use it to fund the project, and that will be, an excellent direction. Because if we keep on getting more debt, what it means is that the resources that is supposed to be used, for growth are going to go into debt servicing, which everybody have been complaining about. So I think the earlier we look at the budget, and then we determine the type of budget we want to run, I think it's going to be very helpful to this country.
Right, let's take it back to Prof now, and I just want you to give us the benefit of history or historical perspective to this. I don't remember any budget that has come out, or an appropriation bill for the budget that has come out, and people said, fantastic work, this is great, capital great, recurrent great, in fact, the deficit fantastic. So is this what we expect to see? Is this just normal? So we don't expend the energy discussing it when government will still do the same thing next year and the one after. So perhaps you can give us a sense of why government prepares budgets such as this and we see it and we go, shouldn't you have known better? Is there maybe some justification, Prof?
No. I apologize. Please repeat the question.
My question is quite simple. I'm hoping you can give us some historical context to this, because personally, I don't remember any budget proposal that came out and people said, fantastic, the recurrent is great, capital great, the deficit wonderful, even the funding, we love this. Because it's usually very, there are always issues. People raise issues, economists and the rest. So my question is, do you maybe have some sort of justification for government as to why they keep coming up with budgets such as this, that we see it and we say, maybe you should have known better?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, as the government says, it wants to deliver dividends of democracy to the Nigerian people. But like Mr. Onyekwere rightly said, we've not been getting regular budget reports to be able to say, oh, what had been budgeted for in the annual budget in terms of projects have actually been executed. And then such projects evaluated at the end of the completion to be able to know whether the projects are actually yielding the desired, impact, providing the desired service to the Nigerian people. And again, like Mr. Onyekwere rightly said, invariably, you find that even though a huge amount would be provided for in the budget, at the end of it all, only a very small percentage is actually executed, because the preference generally has tended to be on recurrent spending, overhead spending, which government ought to focus on in terms of adjusting downwards, which it is not doing. In other words, for me, the size of 47.9 trillion or so naira of the budget, may not really be necessary if government were to focus on restructuring its own expenditure, particularly the recurrent expenditure, and eliminating wasteful spending, duplicated spending, over-bloated spending, and generally corruption, in public spending. And the expectation actually for me would be that, given the nature of Nigeria's economic crisis at this point in time, whereby the economy or the country continues to consume more than its income, adjustment is necessary, but not adjustment on the side of poor people as it is happening now. It's adjustment on the side of government to reduce public, government consumption of goods and services, not related to capital spending, which is development oriented. If that were to be the case, then we will not have the size of budget that we are seeing. And again, we will not have the kind of public outcry, that seems to follow or accompany some of the government policies that have been dished out so far. So invariably, budgeting, as Mr. Onyekwere would agree with me, had become an annual ritual. And so many Nigerians have tended to lose interest. Even somebody like me, a professional economist, when government says now that it's going to announce the annual budget, I'm not excited, unlike many years ago, because the expectations have generally not been realized. The lots of the Nigerian people have not improved, which the budget is supposed to, address, and so on. So invariably, government would have to do a rethink. This whole question of increasing the annual budget by leaps and bounds, in the expectation or hope that, it would meet the yearnings of the Nigerian people, I think we have to do a rethink and then focus on the quality of public spending. Make public expenditure more productive, eliminate waste. What has happened in Nigeria from empirical evidence is that even the capital expenditure is not that productive. In Nigeria, we tend to spend, more capital to generate small quantity of output. In other words, what we
Oh dear. We seem to be having challenges with the audio connection through to Professor Bada, but Jeffrey.
Yes, Prof.
Okay. Call the imply thought he wanted me to stop.
Maybe a connection issues. Maybe you can land on your thoughts so we can take it to Mr. Alatoye.
Pardon?
I said just land on your thought, Prof, so we can take it to the next guest.
Okay. No, the point sentence I'm making really is that government needs to focus on the structure of public spending such that spending becomes more efficient and effective by eliminating waste and corruption involved in public spending. By so doing, it will not require the huge size of the budget that we see today. It will then use small amount of money to generate large volumes of output of goods and services which the Nigerian people enjoy, as happens in a few other African countries around us.
Okay, let's take it to Mr. Alatoye. Mr. Alatoye, I would like your intervention as well. What can be cut? Prof has talked about cutting waste, and he's mentioned a few things. We haven't seen a breakdown. The Minister of Finance will be able to do that after the President presents the project to the joint session of the Assembly, where we'll see earmarks and releases so that we can do, in terms of percentage, what was released against what was earmarked and what this project were for. Actually, that's the responsibility of the National Assembly, which is part of their function, besides holding the power of the purse, is also to oversight how these monies were used. So we've seen issues around controversial presidential jets. We're seeing the VP residence being a big issue. We continue to say it's a moral hazard they will have to bear for that level of expenditure, given the fact that they themselves are touting the issue of not money available. We have too many ministers, too many ministries. We have a proliferation of development agencies right now that will be still funded from the federal government, a big communication team. I can go on and on. So for you, what exactly should be cut down that will significantly show fiscal prudence and discipline on the side of the government, give them the optics that they are really ready to lead from the front at the vanguard of being prudent in their spending so that we can reduce borrowing? Because the recurrent expenditure, as a matter of fact, is part of the big spending. So I'm talking about what can move the needle, not reducing the size of convoy or people that travel with the president. That's a great thing. But what can really move the needle?
Yes, thanks very much for that. A very good question. I think one of the major challenge with budgets, and I heard you very well when you asked Prof as to why always do people criticize the budget. The point is about trust in the government. especially in the application of funds, is across, whether oil, non-oil, tax funds. The way they are being applied is significantly one of the major reasons there are always resentment at the beginning that, oh, okay, they are going to spend it the way they are spending it. And, you know, they will be taking care of themselves rather than what the Constitution says about the welfare and security of the people. If the people have trust in the way fund is being spent, there is not going to be so much resentment when any budget comes out. So there are two major things here. The quality of spending, just as Mr. Onyekwere said, and Prof alluded to that. It is about the quality of spending that is the major challenge. So we are now looking at the quantum as well, which is the volume of the spending. We are looking at what is going to be spent and then the quality of the impact that we are going to be having from that. Now, upon a general evaluation, without necessarily going into the books or into the details, when you are hearing that so much is spent on transportation, for example, transportation of who, from where to where, when you analyze that, without being an accountant or a lawyer knowing the Constitution, you see those convoys and you ask yourself, at whose expenditure? Then the ordinary citizen is going to have what we have, lack of trust in the government spending. So if we keep on breaking it down, for example, again, on the other side, which is what I'm going to plead, is that on the other side,
we have yet again challenges through to the network connection to Mr. Olatoye. While we'll await his return, perhaps it will be time to also expand the conversation. Let me bring this to Mr. Onyekwere.
Major issue.
Okay, it appears Mr. Olatoye. Okay, let's take it to Mr. Onyekwere. Mr. Onyekwere, you were talking about, you know, the budget performance in the 2024 budget in the first place, that there were, you know, you alluded to the fact that some items have not even been delivered. So I'd like you to speak to what some may call the spending approach of the current administration. And there's so much in that space. You could talk about the National Reconstruction and Household Support Program, the request of the administration for 500 billion naira for palliatives. You know, at the beginning of the year, the disbursement of 5 billion naira to you know, governors to tackle to cushion the impact of, you know, fuel subsidy. And we could also refer to the planned distribution of monies to household under the administration's social investment program. If we looked at, you know, these policy approaches as a way of, you know, reflecting on what the spending approach would be in 2025, would you say, you know, that that has in any way moved the needle in, you know, changing the economic indicators, you know, of the country in 2024?
Let me start by saying that the size of the budget, what we are spending on, is quite crucial. I think what we should be focusing on is a re-engineering of the entire Nigerian economy, building a concentric circle in the economy so that our budgets and expenditure will focus on Nigerians in Nigeria and maybe in the diaspora. How do we achieve this? You know, capital projects can be divided into two: administrative capital, which is more or less like running the administration, and developmental capital, which is like the money you invest in schools, bridges, hospitals, which serves the general public. In between the two, if we are able to have a harmonization of our fiscal policy and monetary policy, as well as trade policy and industrial policy at the same time, we are going to, for instance, have a scenario where, assuming that it is right that the National Assembly members must get an SUV, assuming it is right, I don't believe it is right, that SUV will not simply set back our monetary policy by packing all the dollars and moving to Europe or Japan. We could have them drive SUVs made in Nnewi by Innocent. And where you have an economy where most of the capital purchases will be from Nigerian manufacturers, you are stimulating the economy because the more you buy from them, the more jobs they create, the more profits they make, and the more corporate income tax that they will also pay to government. And everybody who is employed will also pay greater personal income tax. So we must come to a situation where we understand the interconnectedness and the indivisibility between these various aspects of policy, whether it's trade, whether it's monetary, and have a council that should be able to look at them dispassionately to say, if this is inflation, how will fiscal policy react to inflation? This money we are voting, what will happen to it? Then secondly, all these money is about palliatives. If you understand the term palliative, it's not really a cure. It's just like, okay, you are very sick. The person may likely die. Let's just lessen the pains he will have until he dies. That's not what we should be doing with the economy. The idea of giving people handouts from borrowed funds, you see, handouts are better done with the surplus you have from your production and your expenditure, not from money you borrow from the World Bank. It's not sustainable. So I will prefer a situation where you allow people to have access to their funds, for instance, in the area of security, begin to produce the normal things they produce and sell to the market and take care of themselves and their families rather than giving the handouts from borrowed money. So I am not a fan of handouts, especially if it is from borrowed money. Now, the other part of your question is focusing more on the lack of accountability. Just like I said before, the more money the government makes, the more money it is required to borrow. So where do we draw the line and where do we put a stop? Because all the arguments and debates now are how we can raise more money from taxation. Nobody is talking to the gains we have made from fuel subsidy removal and where exactly it has been spent. If you recall, the much maligned General Abacha, who we all say is a thief, you know what happened? When he removed some little money from fuel subsidy, he set up the PTDF, which the former president Buhari managed. When Jonathan removed some money from fuel subsidy after the crisis, he set up Shopee. At least we saw some buses. We saw some programs in maternal and childhood. For heaven's sake, where has the Tinubu administration invested whatever savings that came from fuel subsidy removal? So we must take these issues as a totality. As for the re-engineering of the Nigerian economy, building a dark concentric circle, as for transparency and accountability, and even the losses we are incurring through massive industrial oil theft. I knew as way back as 2011, when I was studying the budget, the then Minister of Petroleum Resources said they have built online technology, real online technology, to monitor real-time our pipelines and wherever our crude oil and gas was being channeled through. But after the expenditure of that money, as we saw could have happened in Saudi Arabia and in other countries, nobody is discussing it. So we can actually do with even an expansive budget that will deliver more results and help us to create jobs and grow the economy. Otherwise, if we cannot do that, let's account for the little we have, manage it properly, focus more on developmental capital, and give accounts of whatever we spend.
All right, almost thank all of you gentlemen for your great insights on this particular subject matter. It's an ongoing conversation. The budgets will be presented. I'm sure the ministry will do a breakdown. We'll now look at it on the merit of ministry by ministry, assess as much as we can to continue the conversation. We must thank you, Mr. Eze Onyekpere, Lead Director, Center for Social Justice, Mr. Aziz Alatoye, Vice Chairman, CIT and Taxation Standards and Practice Monitoring Committee of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and Professor Mike Obadon, Professor of Economics, University of Benin, former President, Nigeria Economic Society, and former Director General, National Center for Economic Management and Administration in Ibadan. Thank you so much, sirs, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
Thank you very much.
And yes, just before we go to our very next segment, we've been telling you about what's been going on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, especially that axis outbound Lagos. So that's an aerial shot, Kade. Which direction is this now?
So this is inward Lagos, but you can see the part where there's traffic is outward Lagos, but the perspective is looking into Lagos. So there you see the point of the accident. So this gives us a better view of what exactly happened, just in case you're stuck in that traffic. This is why. You can see the fallen container, and you can see the steel sheets. In fact, there's one of the sheets that is sort of unraveled on the road. You can see some sort of damage as well.
Yeah, I can see that container is almost falling off the bridge.
Exactly.
Wow, this will take a bit of time to move.
It will, and you can imagine just how far, because it's a standstill. So you can imagine how far.
Don't you think that what the traffic officials can do is to convert the lane inbound Lagos?
Lane, right?
Yeah, they just maybe divide it so that people will not
stop. Outward Lagos, that's where we have a challenge.
This is outward Lagos is where the problem is. I mean, inbound Lagos, divide that into
so make
two.
It a dual.
Yes, make it a dual movement for vehicles. Because
if we do not have enough men to manage the situation,
it
just may cause more problems for those who may be traveling outward Lagos on the other end. So the most important thing is to deploy men and manpower to get the container off of the road and those steel sheets, so that those traveling outward Lagos, will have a thoroughfare and they'll be set free from what seems to be a prison.
Because I don't know how long
that may be lasting the next.
Are you sure this
couple
cannot get to maybe places like Alakpere and way down to almost there?
That's exactly what we're talking about.
The traffic.
Yes, it doesn't make sense to me that the other lane is free and people are maybe get to Alakpere. Just convert this lane that is a bit free into two, manage it properly, and then they cut in from the OPIC end. That is simple thinking. Rather than just keep people stuck and bound, doesn't make sense.
Well, even without dividing the other lane into two,
they're already
driving against traffic. So that is the big challenge. We need more men of the Federal Road Safety Corps, to rise to the occasion and help as much as possible to get this emergency addressed.
And why is it so difficult to have CCTV camera on this bridge and all of that? I know we spoke to Mrs. Keisha at that time about this. I know they are putting lights there now. Hopefully that should come up and all of that. But anyway, that's the situation in case you are trying to get out of Lagos. You'll be delayed. I'm not saying you may be delayed. I'm saying emphatically you'll be delayed. Those shots just came in now. So it's as recent as a few minutes away what you saw, less than an hour. Is it up to
just moments ago?
Just moments ago. Those shots just in just moments ago. So you have a reason to maybe postpone or call wherever you're meeting. And we're also saying to the traffic officials, quick, innovative thinking. Convert the other lane so that vehicles can move. It doesn't make sense keeping people stuck. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next leg of our conversation. Join us again.
It's mixed bag with Harmattan. Some people like the fact that the weather is cool. At least there isn't as much heat in the morning, that is. But then afternoon comes and you could feel that heat. It's dry and all. So it's a very tricky weather, right? It's not as though the snow in other climes, I'm talking winter, is better really. It's just the white feel and the fact that you can do snow angels and stone people with snow. But the point I'm trying to make is this is a weather condition, a climatic condition that we're used to already, but not everyone is able to go through it or sail through it smoothly. And this morning, we want to give you some sort of tips that can help you be at your very best in spite of the harsh weather conditions. We have joining us on the program this morning, public health specialist and resident doctor at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Dr. Lillian Ochai. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
You don't look like the Harmattan, I must say. So let's first start with your own personal routine. How do you stay all glowed up during Harmattan? Then we'll get into the nitty-gritties.
All right. Thank you for that. So as we know, it's really dry out here. So I have always my lip balm, okay, so my lips are not dry. And then I make sure that I moisturize. So I have a body oil that I always use. And then hydration is also very important. I make sure to drink lots of water to keep, my body well hydrated. So also ensuring that I take fruits and vegetables are also very good in enhancing, improving the immune system in times like this where there's so much germs and microorganisms being spread by this dust. So to keep your immune system strong and ready to fight anything that comes. So it's important that you stay healthy. So these are some ways in which I, combat this season, Harmattan, and the issues that could come from it. Yeah.
And it's great to see you're practicing what you preach. But not everyone has this understanding. First, a lot of people are just trying to hustle, their way through. So people don't really have time for what did you call it? Lip balm? Come on, I'm trying to make money, right? so walk us through
we don't want chapped lips,
Exactly, right? But walk us through first. Maybe this can help drive the point home. What does a Harmattan season do to the body? What does that season, that can help people get a sense of why this is important. So walk us through what this Harmattan does to the body.
Yes. Okay. So, like I said earlier, it's characterized by dry, the season. It's just dry, sometimes cold, hot. There's variations in temperature, and then wind moving lots of this dust. So it can affect the body in different ways, right? So, like I mentioned, the skin is one of it. So it could cause dryness. And it's important that, we moisturize to avoid our skin just looking white and things like that. Another way it can affect is also when this dust moves, they also move with germs, microorganisms, and things like that. And when, people come in contact with them, they touch things that surfaces with this dust and things like that. They could get some infections, and also some could come down with cold, flu, and then people that are asthmatic also are at higher risk of experiencing attacks in periods like this, because dust is one of the main triggers to some of these attacks. Another way it affects the body is in particular is sickle cell patients. So they usually tend to have crisis also in times like this due to reduced oxygen in the air. So it's important that we take precautions to help ourselves to feel better and help our immune system to be better in times like this.
And you've headed, rightfully to the next destination. By the way, I'll remember to adopt some of those glow routines that you have taught us to enjoy some of your glow as well. But talk to us about what asthmatic patients and even sickle cell patients can do during this season, because I really do feel for them. Inevitably, some of them may have to go out just to make ends meet, and not all of them have a vehicle to travel in. Some of them, have to commute in public transport. I've seen quite a few people this season, put on nose masks, but the level of dust being lifted during this season is quite concerning for these category of people. So what can they do to, protect themselves?
Okay, thank you very much for that. So, before I speak generally, so for asthma patients in particular, it's important that they move around with their inhalers. It's important that they have their inhalers. So in a situation where, there's an attack or something coming up, so they can easily help to decongest the airways in that period. But generally, like you mentioned, face masks, especially in areas that there's excessive amounts of dust and things like that. It's important that people use face masks, especially those that are vulnerable, just like sickle cell patients, asthmatic patients, and some other people with reduced immune systems that have some other conditions, So it's important that they use face masks to reduce their exposure to these things. Then another is adequate fluid intake. It's very important, like I said, to stay hydrated. It helps to maintain respiratory moisture and reduce the risk of irritation. So we should ensure that people are aware of this. And also, people should also look out for signs of dehydration. Okay, because when the person is not well hydrated and there's some imbalance in the electrolytes in the body, they could come down with dehydration. And some symptoms that we can look out for: feeling really thirsty, dark yellow or strong smelling urine, headedness, feeling tired, the dry mouth, lips, and sunken eyes. So these are signs of dehydration. And when, the fastest way to cure dehydration is to drink fluids, particularly those that contain electrolytes like sport drinks or oral rehydration solutions. So people need to take this very seriously. And another is the use of air purifiers or humidifiers in indoor environments to improve air quality. So this is another way that people can help themselves in times like this to filter out the smoke and, unpleasant odors in the home. Then ensuring regular cleaning of ventilation systems to prevent dust accumulation also for those that have air conditioning system is also very important. Then I already talked about the diet earlier. So this is also very important for everyone, including those that are among the vulnerable population. So fruits, vegetables, eating and these things help to contribute to a strong immune system, and it plays a significant role in reducing the risk of respiratory infections that could come up. So not only people with asthma are at risk, also there's also another condition called chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So these people also tend to have sometimes this dust and things like that could trigger them. And also the elderly are also within the vulnerable population. So it's also important, especially those that have pre-existing conditions, to make sure that they pay more attention to their health and, try to stick to these things that I mentioned earlier.
All right, doctor, let me be sentimental for a moment. They say that black people or Africans generally, we don't have a good health-seeking behavior. If you bring that down, I think women have a better health-seeking behavior than men. So help men.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So now, what package here for men? That's my question this season.
Okay. I mean, we will just have to keep talking. It's like a lot of men normally when they leave their houses, they hardly do much. But I mean, now it's you have to do. You just have to do something. Moisturize. You can also have a lip balm just for your lips, and it doesn't have to be those ones that will be very obvious and like looking like a girl or something, but lip balms for guys also. And then hydration, things like that, and also wearing light clothing also, especially because of the heat, things like that. So that's basically it.
So thank you very much on behalf of all the men. I would like to thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I see men chuckling. But again, maybe you should speak to us about the kind of cases you also get at times like this. Just how, what is the hospital setting like? What are the cases people present at times like this? So we also know, I know doctors don't quite get a holiday. It's like the work you get, but walk us through what the hospital setting is like at times like this.
Okay, yes. So I already spoke about the vulnerable population. So in times like this, asthma attacks go up, and sickle cell crisis also come up a lot. So we would usually be expecting that people would come in with crisis that we'll have to manage, and people with asthma would also come in with exacerbations and things like that. Then also in extreme conditions, people could have heat-related illnesses where it's so hot that the body cannot control the temperature to cool it down. So they could also come with lightheadedness, fainting, things like that we have to manage. Then respiratory infections also. Some could also come down with pneumonia due to these organisms that are in the dust or in the air. So when they present with cough, chest pain, productive cough, high-grade fever, things like that. So these are the things that we'll be expecting related to the Harmattan season.
There you go. We wish you the very best, and to those watching as well, please keep these tips to heart, right? We've survived this time and again, but I think we can even not just survive it, but we can thrive during this season. I know a lot of people wish I were in winter, snow, and all of that, but hey, it comes with its own challenges as well.
Yes.
Exactly.
Is our winter.
There you go. And winter comes with its own challenges, and they are able to, guard against it, keep warm, and all of that. So let's, own our own and ensure that we do well with it. But we have to thank you so much for sharing some of your knowledge and glow with us. We've been speaking with Dr. Lillian.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Public health specialist and resident doctor, Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, we're back from the hospital, or at least from the doctor's consulting room. But we'll take a moment now. When we return, we have some conversation around food. Oh yes, stay with us.
Light of Harcourt to the glory of God.
The festive season has come alive in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. The government kicks off the Light Up Port Harcourt project. The event, flagged off at GRA Junction, was led by Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The project aims to brighten the city with Christmas colors, transforming night drives into a magical experience for residents. For Port Harcourt residents, this initiative is special. It marks the first major Christmas celebration of this scale since the Port Harcourt Carnival last held in 2013.
We're so excited because it's been a long time we had this kind of events in Port Harcourt. The first thing is that Christmas is a celebration for everybody. So generally we are all celebrating, we're all lit up. But financially, the economic situation of the country is telling on different people's pockets. But come on, let's think of it. Enjoyment is for the living. Enjoyment is for the living. If you are dead, no Christmas. Enjoy with the 1K you have.
Spearheaded by the River State Tourism Development Agency, RSTDA, the project is set to make the holidays more exciting.
We're trying to reignite the spirit of Christmas, rekindle love, rejig the strategy that Port Harcourt, River State has always been a hospitable state. And for so long, that has been locked down somewhere. So we're just opening the gates to the beauty of the state. I mean, Culinary is loading. And when I mean loading, it's loading for 2025. But River State is great. And for every ethnic group, 26 of them, and the 23 LGAs, there are activities ongoing up until January.
The Christmas lights have sparked joy and optimism across the state. Residents, including music artists and business owners, share their excitement, with many hopeful that the iconic River State Carnival will soon return. Private homes and businesses are also adding to the festive spirit, showcasing colorful decorations, while entertaining shows and parties are popping up in different parts of the city. Beyond the beauty and excitement, the state government has announced plans for a Christmas discount market starting December 18th.
From the RSTDA boss, he said that there will be lots of fun this Christmas at the different local government areas. They're hoping that there will be both regatta and some other things that will be going on. So, if you are looking for where to have your Christmas, you might have to pick your River State. All right, back to you guys in Lagos.
Well, doesn't it feel and look like Christmas already? That's Port Harcourt. And of course, we imagine how every other part of the country will look like. The Christmas lights are turning on in most parts of Lagos already. And of course, they're turning on here as well, right here at Channels Television. So beyond the lights and the decorations, what do the colors look like on the table? So beyond the red and the gold, I'm talking about the jollof rice and chicken now, and the green if you consider the fried rice. What are the options for meal planning, the other options for meal planning during this Christmas time? How do we explore all the other traditional recipes so that we can have a memorable food Christmas as well? So joining us to have this conversation this morning, we have Chef Paul Abdul, a hospitality consultant and culinary expert. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So, what does Christmas look like for you? What are your plans? Let's start with that.
Food.
Food.
You can't have Christmas without food. Good food. And it's just everywhere. Different cultures. And Lagos State is the melting pot. It's where everything will now arrive. And fortunately for us, we have all cultures here represented. So food, and so you see all colors. But you see, unfortunately, jollof rice dominates.
Is that unfortunately?
Unfortunately.
Fortunately? Maybe unfortunately.
Why?
Well, I understand the unfortunately part of it.
Why?
The price of a bag of rice.
I get the point.
You get the point.
I get the point.
So you have from the south, you have to the east to the west, and then everybody wants their food to be represented. But jollof rice is the fine boy of the Christmas and also
Franca.
And
he's a poster boy.
And there was a call. Also, I think I'm happy about what's happening with foodies. Traditionally, people think as chefs as the oga pata of them all, but that's not the case. I'm really happy what's happening in industry. We have most of the restaurants you have today and food companies, quick service restaurants, find that most of them are being headed by women. And guess what? They are very creative. So I was discussing with somebody that's an event planner and also a caterer. I told her, I said, look, and they said, chef. I said, I respect you guys because you create. We go to school to learn continental dishes. Well, by the way, I studied with them, Nigeria Hotels Limited. Back then, they had the best catering school in West Africa. Back then. Today, it's no more there. But the culture they established is almost being lost because people have not been properly trained on culinary arts. I studied catering hotel management. Yes, so I can cook and I can manage. Yes, but presently what I do is I'm off the kitchen because I consult and I help people set up kitchens and restaurants and establish processes and structure to help the business thrive. But you see, the thing is that what we cook here as continental is people's local food. Right. Italian dishes.
So our local food is continental to some
Yes.
But Chef Paul, how can we make the unfortunate part of jollof rice become fortunate this Christmas? I'm sure that's a question on the minds of many.
Because we are going to eat jollof rice.
Yes, it helped me because, as he mentioned, because of the cost. Yeah, you see, Christmas is one time a year. And people want to go out and splurge. And you can't deny them that pleasure. So there's no way around it that you can get it to be cheap, but there's a way you can manage around it. It's a season of giving, so people should share. When I was growing up, I was born on the island. So when, Christmas is a festive period where family gather, and the experience of cooking together, in the neighborhood, is that excitement and the firewood jollof. You see, you can't take it away.
Absolutely.
You can't. No, today, we have the traditional and we have the modern scientific aspect of it. But our mothers back then, food is in their hands. and the taste buds. So they don't measure how they do it. You don't have 1 liter, 2 liter, pinch of salt. I'll do a menu and,
You stop when you hear the voice of the gods. Stop.
Exactly. So, but you see, the exciting part, well, after the food is done, the firewood smell, everything that adds to the taste, you see us rushing for the pot, the grand, and begin to clean that up because most of the ingredients rest there, bottom pots. you have committed that sin before. So it's really interesting because when you plan, why I say I'm happy and excited about what's happening is because our local food is now being celebrated and featured on menus.
That's why it's important. So let's bring it home.
Yeah.
Christmas is 7 days away. Coyote just bought a bag of rice for 90 what?
I didn't say I bought a bag of rice. I was telling you the price of
a bag of rice.
Okay.
90 something.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
So let's look at what the Nigerian average family is going through and how they can make the most right now with what they have. Say they can afford a 10 kg, 5 kg, depending on what's the size of the family. Walk us through how to make the most of this and make it delicious. That's the key word here.
Okay.
Using rice as a case study. Because some of us still like the rest.
Now, the 3 options. White rice and stew, jollof rice, fried rice. Because there's no way rice keeps coming on. So, but during the time of when this rice tomato thing was going up, the price it was going up, people came up with different ways to prepare stews cheaper and sauces, and they came up with cucumber, different ways. So I thought about it. I said, okay, what way can you invent to give your stew body that will not cost you so much? So I got garden egg because cucumber is almost 70 or 80% liquid. Also, when you extract and then you have to now boil but garden egg is fleshy. So what I did was that I blended my garden egg with peppers and then a little tomato and it became full. You won't even know that, but I put a lot of peppers to make it spicy.
Volume.
I give it volume. And I cooked my stew. And I had guests, they came from the UK, they came to visit me. And she confessed that was the best stew she had tasted in a long time. I'm saying this for the first time. I don't know if anybody has tried it, but I thought about it because when you are in the kitchen, you have ingredients all around you. If you are creative, you will just want to try things. So I look at it. It has body. It has little juice. Tomato, pepper will add to it and give it body.
And that's brilliant, and it speaks to how ingenious and creative we are as Nigerians, particularly now for you in that industry. But I want you to quickly talk to us about this, because there will be a lot of jollof cooking this season, right? Not every jollof tastes like jollof. Some is just jaw. So there's no love in the jollof. So I want you to speak to, we'll still do a proper cooking, right? But let's give a foretaste. Okay. What are some of the common mistakes people make while cooking jollof? And let me just give you the pointers. One, some jollof you taste and they are soggy. Right, some they are not cooked, well cooked. Some it depends on half cooked,
some
right?
well cooked inside the same.
And some they're not as red as you want them to be, and they don't have that jollof taste.
Exactly. So you end by telling us how to still get the firewood jollof taste without using firewood. But some, again, it depends on where you are biting from. So one part has a lot of salt, and another part that is pepper that is in the constituent. So how do you make the perfect jollof? Simply put.
Okay, perfect jollof still is the traditional way. You start by, you see, the mistake a lot of people make is that when they boil their tomatoes. And the purpose of boiling tomatoes is actually to reduce the water and also the acid content in it. Now, when you boil tomato and you now still fry it, that's an overkill. You see, people don't know when ingredients die in food. No, that's the truth.
I've never heard that before.
Yes, because I enjoy teaching. I do training a lot, and I try to break things down. Excuse me. So people can understand that there are ingredients called perishables, and they have the amount of heat pressure they can sustain before they diminish.
Oh, I get the point.
Now, when you start your first, use a lot of onions. I don't know the price of onions. Onions give flavoring, and you must have that basic. Onions, garlic, ginger. Start with those 3 ingredients. You can't go wrong. The only way you can go wrong if you don't manage your rice cooking very well. Don't parboil your rice. Pour it when you've made your sauce, because after you've blended tomatoes, you must first heat your pan before your oil hit your pan.
This notebook is full.
I like this.
So if people don't get this, that's why when you eat in fine dining restaurants, when they serve you food, the food must transit from a hot environment to another hot environment. Your plate that you serve must be hot. So it keeps your food warm, because when your food lands on the cold plate, immediately it begins to lose the original taste. You won't even know, but it will get colder faster than the food that the plate is warm. That's why I have warmers.
So how do we warm our plates then?
Simple. You can steam your plate
with hot water.
Yes, with hot water.
Okay.
Yes. So
okay.
Now back to our jollof. Yes. To get it
wind down.
Yeah. So good. Now, when you heat your oil, and then throw in your onions to flavor the oil, and your garlic and your. Now it's better you pound your garlic, because when you just like grapes cannot be blended. You have to crush it, because when they bleed, they give you the, what you really need, the flavor. So, but if you have much of them, you can blend. So blend garlic, have them in the paste, and then you throw into your oil with your onions and stir. When the onions are about to turn a little bit golden brown, like caramelizing, then you turn in your peppers and tomatoes already blended. That's your stew sauce cooking already.
Okay.
And then pour in your raw rice.
So you don't allow the pepper to cook for long?
Yes.
That's the idea?
Yes.
All right.
So because ingredients help ingredients, because the more ingredients, the heat they would receive would be lesser. You understand? It's just like fried rice now. Fried rice, a lot of people parboil fried rice. I said, why do you parboil your fried rice? It's not called fried. You fry your rice.
Okay.
All right.
This is interesting.
There's more.
In fact, it's going to be better with literally seeing it done.
Because I wanted to say that I really don't want jollof this season. I want something like fisherman soup and, loy loy, something like that. So would it be cheaper than jollof, But that's part 2 of the conversation. We must thank you very much, Chef Paul Abdul, hospitality consultant and culinary expert. Thank you so much for those jollof rice tips. I'm sure some people have been helped this morning.
Yes, thank you.
But there's more to come as far as meal planning is concerned for you this Christmas and beyond. Courtesy, The Morning Brief on Channels Television. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Married with technology and science and all in between. So that's actually the focus of our conversation. We're bringing up the CEO of Pocket Food, Omolara Olalerin. She's joining us via Zoom from Birmingham. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Soil scientist to tech innovator. Walk us through that for a moment before we get to the crux of the matter.
All right. So I think I've always known I was going to be a business owner right from my childhood. I was someone that wanted to have more disposable income. Growing up in a strict home and a home that's tight on cash. So I've always known I was going to be into business. So fast forward to my second year in university, I started my first business, and interestingly enough, it was a mobile app. So in university, FUNAB, I started an app called Jack App, and the app was basically an on-demand marketplace for students by students. So that was where my journey as someone that wanted to lead product company, someone that wanted to be a startup owner. So since when I was in 200 level, I started that till I finished school. I had to close down due to graduating and not being able to have funds to keep it going. So since then, immediately after graduation, I started working with startup companies, product-led companies, and just sort of kicked off from there.
So Pocket Food is that meal planning site that you can go to, for your lunch interventions, right?
Yes.
Help us understand how you were able to identify that need and how that need is now being fulfilled right now.
Thank you very much. So I started working, like I mentioned, I started working with different companies. And one thing that I noticed that was a constant is that companies in Nigeria hardly provide food for their staffs, right? Except you're working in a multinational or a big bank. Not even all banks, if I'm correct, provide meals for their staff. So where I used to work was deep into Ikeja GRA, and there was no canteens, no buka. If you wanted to eat, you had to order food online, right? So consequently, the more I worked with different companies, the more I saw this singular problem. Look, your office do not provide, they won't provide lunch for you, right? And I tried to find out what actually is the problem. Why is this so compared to other countries? Why is it that employers do not provide lunch for their staff? Right, so I identified a lot of problems. There's vendor management, food quality assurance, the different taste of their staff, right? So this is a problem, and there was no current solution, right? So mostly it was just food deliveries where you have to go and order food and everything. So I came up with the idea of pocket food while I was working in one of my companies. So I saw that, okay, you know what, why not just get a private chef that will handle your meals from Monday to Friday. So the idea behind pocket food is the idea that you don't have to go to order food every day on your online food deliveries. What you can do with pocket food is that one day at a time, one day you could just come on pocket food and just get your meals from Monday to Friday, schedule your meals from Monday to Friday. We get our private chefs, we get our restaurants to make these meals for you. We get it delivered to you at your workplace, your office, at home. So what Pocket Food does right now is that you can create a weekly meal plan and get it delivered to you. So you don't have to worry about your office providing you lunch or having to worry about where to get your meals, how to be cooking from home and everything. So this kind of snowballed into our B2B arm of business, where now we are now the corporate catering partners to offices, right? So we've been catering to some of your known companies since early this year, right? So we've been providing food to their staffs, that the staffs are able to create a meal plan, and we're able to deliver these meals to the offices.
Omolara, the purpose of this conversation really is to encourage other entrepreneurs, young Nigerians, really. A lot of people see problems, see challenges, they talk about it, they're angry about it. Some people are depressed, some people make the decision to japa because of that. But it's said that those challenges, those problems are opportunities, really, because someone will pay to have that problem fixed, or at least to reduce the impact of that problem or challenge. So it's interesting to see how you've been able to turn that pain point into a paying point, because I imagine that you are being paid or you're getting a lot of money, and I've seen you built a team around that. But I'd like you to walk us through how easy, and I use that word, how easy it is to start and scale up. Some of those wonderful experiences you had, some of those days you said, I'm not doing it again. Some other days you said, okay, I think this is making sense.
Well, entrepreneurship is not easy. It's a mindset thing. It has to be something that, I'm doing this and I'm going to do it right. I'm going to stick to it. This is my brainchild. So being an entrepreneur is not all roses, as everyone will know, right? The holding factor is that you have that mindset that you want to persevere, you want to continue, you want to keep doing it, right? And first and foremost, you need to have the mindset of a builder. You have to have the mindset of a problem solver, right? Because yes, right now in Nigeria, there are thousands of problems that are looking for solutions. They're looking for people like you and I that can provide solutions to that, right? And building in Nigeria is a very difficult climate. It's kind of a difficult climate, especially for the food industry right now, right? And it's just that perseverance that I want to keep at it. I want to keep doing it and finding ways to make it happen. Some of the challenges I faced, because quite soon after starting Pocket Food, I got into a school in UK, one of the schools I've always wanted to go. So I took that up and I went to school in UK. And building from UK was not very easy. And one of the things that helped me was building the right team. Right? If you want to build in Nigeria, even outside of Nigeria, make sure that you have the right team. And this is actually very difficult, but if you are able to pull it off, you'll be good to go. Right? Okay. So challenges I faced or I overcame was building the right team, and I'm thankful and lucky that I was able to do that. Right? People that worked with me were able to ensure that Pocket Food was able to get to where it was going to. Another challenge is logistics and everything. And one of the things I did to overcome that was effective partnerships.
So let's drill down on two things you've mentioned. When you were building your team, what exactly were you looking for? Because people can say build the right team. How do you find the right person? So the quality you look out for in the first place, and then that delivery service. So that have you ever been in a situation where your client calls you and say, the chicken you sent to me is half, because delivery man has helped himself with part of it. Because we've seen those things.
No, thankfully.
So just walk us through how were you able to build the right team remotely without being present, and whether you've had any incidents of delivery people playing a quick one on you, or you have your own delivery service.
Okay. So in terms of building the right team, I think first and foremost is to look for people that think like you, find that founder's mindset. Right. One of the things I did was to find someone that was more intelligent than me and had that founder's mindset. Right. And then subsequently, adding more team members that has that mindset. Yes, definitely you do the interviews, you do but I think something about me and most people that are intuitive is that once you interview someone, once you speak with someone, or even if you work with someone for like 2 days or 3 days, you know if they would last with you. You know if they're worth to be in the team, right? So one thing I did was I used to have like 1 week probation. I usually tell anyone that enters my team for the first time that your probation is not 3 months, your probation is not 2 months, your probation is 1 week. In 1 week, believe me, I will know if you are going to be a solid part of the team or if you're going to be kicked out, right? So give it for anyone that owns a business and you're serious about your business, wherever you work with, there's this antenna that you should always have, that if you're working with the right person, right? And I look at different things. I look at are they self starters? Do I have to tell them what to do before they do it? So there are some things that you know, and they'll be able to help you, choose right. But first and foremost, choose founders' mindsets, right? People that think like you, people that are more intelligent than you. And moving on to your second question, when I mentioned that I had these challenges, I meant in terms of, delivering fast enough, delivering early enough, because...
Okay. My apologies. I know you have a lot to say, but we've learned from you. 1 week, I've never heard of 1 week probation. Yeah. You must have some... I think being a woman plays a key role in that, in terms of having intuition. I don't know whether men really have that capacity, but Omolara Olarin is the CEO of Pocket Food, joining us from the United Kingdom. Thank you so much for coming on the program, and good luck.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be the last leg of the program, where we'll bring you a singer and songwriter. Join us again.
Clock. When I enter the place, then it's going off. Always be another one of you, but there'll never be another one of me. That's how it be. That's how it be. There'll always be another one of you, but there'll never be another one of me. That's how it be. That's how it be. I told you many times, but you know the hell word. You see these hips, do you see these curves? I'm wondering, do you even deserve? I don't chase, I replace. I let go, then embrace. You're obsessed with the space, cause
Well, let us speak with that voice. We're joined on the program this morning by Anita Igbogun, singer-songwriter. She's based in Ireland, by the way, but her stage name is Annie. I hope I got that correctly. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Yeah, you did. Thanks for pronouncing it right. Sometimes people don't get it.
Amazing. I mean, there's the least they can do, right? Because you sing so well. I just want you to walk us through first your art, right? I saw you singing as the guitar went on, and I was just thinking, what's going through your mind at that point? So maybe take us back to that moment and help us understand your creative and delivery process.
I was definitely thinking, let me not go off key. I hope I'm in pitch. I hope this is sounding right. That's definitely the thoughts that go through my head when I'm performing live. But overall, in that moment, I was a bit overwhelmed, like with just joy. That was kind of like just a gift back to my fans, because to do an acoustic set was how well the reception of that particular song. That's how they did. So I was just a bit excited to get that out, and then when I put it out, everyone loved it. So it was just amazing.
And what are the influences that you would say brought you to where you are and take you even beyond?
I always say my biggest influences was definitely P Square. After P Square, I would say Destiny's Child. But P Square have always been like something, a group, especially Nigerian artists, like the way they marketed themselves over to us in the West. I felt so connected to their story. I listened to their albums. Like I literally am P Square's biggest fan.
Which is your favorite? Sorry, which is your favorite song? Is it collabo? Because I imagine collabo.
Yeah, so I'm going to go for something that people may not know of, but I love their song Story in their album. I think I don't remember the name of the album. It's either Below or Get Square. I can't remember, but I love that song because they basically talk through the journey as P Square and like the storyline and the success.
Is it the one that has Uncle, Please Tell Us a Story?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, it's a lovely song, I must say.
Okay. You know it, then that's great.
Yes, I do.
Well, interesting story, and you certainly don't sound like you're of a Nigerian breed. Oh, of course, you're of Nigerian extraction when we hear your name. So it's interesting to know that, oh, P Square is one of your influences. So tell us what, the creative environment in terms of, your inspiration is like, and how it helps to form the kind of music that you produce.
Yeah, so in regards to like someone like people like P Square, because in Ireland, like I grew up obviously in the diaspora, but there is a misconception that a lot of people who grew up in the diaspora, I can only speak for those of us who grew up in Ireland, but we do have a lot of connections to our Nigerian heritage, obviously because of our parents. I was first generation in Ireland, so to have that influence of people like P Square, Baba, I guess New Age as well, like people like Burna Boy, but as well as I grew up in a household where Celine Dion was also played, Destiny's Child, Beyonce was also played. So I do think I take bits of inspiration from everyone in terms of the way I articulate and send my message in my music, 100%.
So how do you enjoy, it's a funny question, but this is important as well. It speaks to longevity. How do you enjoy singing and making music?
It's literally I guess you could say my voice, no pun intended, because I grew up in kind of in the countryside, so I didn't really go out much. So it was always a thing where like songwriting, like I was very good in English and art. That was my best subject in school. So I used to be obsessed with like poetry and stuff. So that kind of like what led me to like songwriting. Then you come up with the melodies. And then in terms of like actual singing stuff, because I was so like recluse, I was so by myself, that was my way of coping. That was my escape. That was also something that I felt like I could always rely on. So it's more to me than just like the money or like the fame or whatever. It's like literally my way of offloading, really. It's therapy to me.
So your creative process, some people will need the sound. Maybe they want to hear the keys of the keyboard. They want to hear the strumming of the guitar or beats. Some just sit down and it comes. What works for you?
People always get shocked, but I'm actually a very visual artist. So I think of exactly how I want to feel in that moment. Sometimes I'll be inspired by life. Sometimes I'm inspired by my personal situations, family, friends, doesn't matter. I could just be like, wow, that would be such a great song. And I'll think about how I want to say it, how I want to feel, how the videos will be, the visuals. So when I do that, that's how I sit down and come up with a concept, and that's how I start writing. That's how it works for me, funny enough.
Beautiful. Whatever works, really. Different strokes for different folks. And I think that's what makes each person different, really, because we have different creative processes. But I'd like to just ask you, it's Christmas, right? We're counting down to Christmas, 7 days to Christmas. And I imagine, let me first ask, are you a Christmas person? Because I realize that not everyone is.
I'm actually not. Maybe when I was younger, but my family were more into New Year. That's more of a bigger deal in our family. The crossover, more so.
So how does that work, really? So during Christmas, are you detached? Because I was going to ask for your favorite Christmas tune, and I wanted us to do it together. But how does that work, not being a Christmas person?
I think because I left home so early, like all me and my siblings were quite older, so the spirit of Christmas kind of died out in a way. But New Year is such a big deal that we do Christmas basically like New Year crossover. But in terms of the question, like my favorite Christmas song, it would obviously be like, it's a song that a lot of people don't know, but it's Fa La La with Justin Bieber, like that take. I like that one. Or just the traditional Mariah Carey, All I Want Is Christmas to See.
Oh, so you listen to a lot of Nigerian music. You don't have any in your library of, the traditional, Christmas songs that are sung back home here in Nigeria?
No, not. Because I don't listen to Christmas music in general as much.
Okay.
It's not something I would gravitate towards. But in terms of like other themes, I would say 100%, yeah.
Okay, we'll be sharing some with you perhaps after this time out, but we must get a feel of your voice, Annette. So whatever it is that you like for Christmas, we'd like you to share it with us in the spirit of the season as we wrap up now. So start thinking of it. What comes to you naturally to sing during Christmas or during New Year, which is the one that you gravitate more towards?
Let me sing. Let me be like, all I want for Christmas is you. That's as much as I think.
That you know of it. Okay, so just pick something off of your own personal library.
Okay. You caught my eye, boy, you caught my eye, you caught my eye, you caught my eye. You caught my eye, you caught my eye. Boy, you caught my eye, you caught my eye, you caught my eye.
Ooh. I mean, I wish we could go on and on. I wish I brought my guitar. Just, strum to this. I value live performances, because I think it's really raw, and that's where you get the emotions. I don't want to hear that there's been some auto-tuning and there's been some stuff on voices. So this is art in its rawest form, and we want to wish you the best. You're from Edo State, am I correct?
Yeah, I'm from Edo State on my mom's side and Delta State in my dad's side.
Lovely. So I hope you'll be digging into the roots as well and doing some tunes.
I've been learning a lot. I've been learning a lot, actually. I'm such a learner. I like to learn a lot.
Absolutely.
We'll try, yeah.
Because there's a lot of culture, art, and a lot of things I'm sure the world would just buy easily. But we'll have to thank you so much. Wishing you the very best. We've been speaking with Annette Agbogun, singer-songwriter based in Ireland. Once again, Happy New Year in advance. Maybe we can skip Christmas. Thank you. There you have it.
Yes, that's it on the program. 7 days of Christmas. Tomorrow will be 6 days We'll keep reminding you so that you put that jollof together.
Yeah.
And bring those gifts
you can
to your
put
friends
that
and neighbors.
fisherman soup together. It doesn't have to be jollof.
Bukola fisherman soup on Christmas Day. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.
But just make sure you make Christmas good for someone today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Now I need to get some fisherman soup. I'm Kayode Okikilo again. Sunrise Daily.
I'm going to learn how to cook and give it to you guys. Don't worry. Bye-bye.